Welcome back to Techstination. We have another great interview in store. Joining us is Tim Enwall, the head of Misty Robotics. Thanks for joining us, Tim.
Good to be back with you, Fred.
And Misty II is standing next to you. But let's talk a little bit about the background of the company a little bit first before we chat about what's new. Give us some background.
Yeah, so Misty is a spin out of Sphero. Many of your listeners will be familiar with Sphero, makers of robots for more than 10 years. They've shipped 5 million at this point, largely toy and education robots. The founder of Sphero has been building robots for 25 years, since he was 12. And he always conceived of a very sophisticated, powerful robot that could do many tasks for us. And he looked at the world of robotics and said, you know, the only people who can participate in robotics are this very tiny group of very specifically educated people called roboticists, which sort of leaves everybody else out, right? It leaves every business, every IT group, every developer. It really leaves everybody out of the robotics industry, other than that sort of tiny group of wizards. And you know, since he is one, he decided, well, let me make an open source robot, and in quotes, an open source robot that anybody should be able to easily make a robot app and solve a robot problem. So, you know, solve hundreds of problems for the office, solve hundreds of problems for the home, you know, and eventually those people who solve those problems, their apps would be available in an app store. So Misty is a platform robot for companies and developers to create robot apps that solve problems out in the world. And you know, and as you can see, she's not going to solve problems in a warehouse or on a factory floor. There's plenty of those wizards who have decided, I'm going to make, you know, $1 million robot, a few $100,000 robot. I'm going to sell a few of those. But there's really no roboticists around. There's a handful in the world who have tackled the problem of a sophisticated robot for less than $3,000 that's available to everyone to build applications for. And you know, we've got dozens of customers building applications, some to take care of the elderly in their homes, some to take care of the elderly in a facility, some to be an office assistant, you know, reception, some to be a concierge, some to be a helper of therapists with disabled kids and autistic kids, some to be customer service agents. So, you know, lots of robot apps, you might call them a skill, that can be built by software developers. And the beauty, Fred, is for the first time ever, you know, hundreds of people who could never imagine delivering a robot solution to market, you know, they're spending a few months building an app and now they're delivering robot solutions to the market. So it's been really exciting to launch our product 15 months ago, see our customers really getting into how can Misty the robot solve the problem that I'm really familiar with, apply some software development and start solving a problem.
And with this year's virtual Consumer Electronics Show, you've announced a new capability for Misty II. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so we decided we would create our own robot app. So it too would go into the App Store. And it is a temperature screening assistant application where Misty asks the COVID-19 screening questions. You know, have you had these symptoms? Have you been around something or caring for somebody with these symptoms? And then she, with a thermal camera in her visor, with a thermal camera and an external reference device that the FDA requires for high accuracy, take somebody's temperature, and if it's elevated, we'll let somebody in the facility know, hey, you need to come check this person further, and if not, then admits them into the facility. So, you know, she's been hard at work in some pilot sites the last couple months, and we announced this week at CES that she's production, you know, fully ready to go. All the kinks have been worked out. All the features have been added. There's a website where the administrator can go and see, how many people were scanned, what were their temperatures, what were their answers to questions. Um, and, so she's just been reliably out there in the world doing her job.
So for people who want to envision how applications work with the Misty robot, can they liken this to having a phone that they download their apps and run them, or what's the experience?
So for the developer, absolutely, you can liken it to a phone. You could liken it to a game console. You could liken it to AR, VR headsets where the developer has a piece of clay. There's an API. They know how to write software, and they build an app, and they load the app onto the robot, and they run the app. There aren't enough applications yet, Fred. I mean, we're only 15 months into the market for us to have an app store yet. On our website, you can see the solution hub. And if you squint hard, you'll see an app store on that page. It describes the various applications that our customers are working on. We add more regularly to that page, but we're not yet at the point where, you can go to that page, transact, download a software package, pay your money, download it onto the robot. There's still an extra step where you need to go and talk to the application developer, negotiate with them for the price, load it onto your robot. But absolutely, where this is headed is, if you have a Misty robot because you bought it for temp screening and you happen to be at a children's hospital, so you want it to be a therapist's assistant as well, yep. You just go to the therapist assistant app providers. There are 3 of them, and you select and you download, and now you've got an app where Misty is being a therapist assistant to autistic and disabled kids.
Really interesting. So tell us what that experience is like. I mean, you have that, you've got software that enables it for, I guess, combating isolation as a companion
Mhm.
type of thing as well, and for senior facilities. Tell us about it.
Tell you about the apps or the robot?
Yeah, what the experience is like for people, how it's being used out in the world now, and I know it's just getting started.
Yeah. So let's look at the elder care case. Our customer in Barcelona, Spain, they won a project from the city of Barcelona because the city knows that they have an aging population, and it's a big problem that their population is lonely, isolated, scared, not necessarily safe, not connected to healthcare. And our customer won that project. Their software developers have built an app. The app, Misty is in the home on her wireless charger. At a certain frequency, she'll come out and she'll navigate the house, find the person. If it's time for their medicines, give them a medication reminder. If it's time to connect with somebody remotely, connect that elderly person with a remote caregiver, whether it's a medical caregiver or a family caregiver. And interact with that elderly person. If it's a therapeutic aid, the therapist or the special ed teacher in a school working with disabled kids and autistic kids, goes to their personal computer, loads up the personal computer part of the app, which is essentially puppeting and working with Misty as a puppet. And then Misty is in front of the child, and the therapist is using emotional constructs, verbal constructs to work with kids that really have some challenges and delays. So Misty's there on the floor working with the child, there on the desk working with the child. Another example. Some of these are confidential, right? Because they're still being worked on. But in the field of ergonomics, Misty is roaming an environment and consulting with a human being about the ergonomics of their situation, because she's got visual acuity. She's got conversation acuity. She's got face recognition. She's got self-driving. Tracks for her to drive. So those are some of those experiences. And then as I described, the temperature screening assistant. You walk into the hospital, you walk into the mental health center. She's on the desk or she's on a pedestal, and she detects that you're there because she knows how to detect that there's a person there. She greets you, asks you the questions, helps you understand that to take your temperature, you need to take your eyeglasses off. She takes your temperature, and she, tells you you're cleared to go into the facility, or, I need you to step aside for subsequent screening.
So what do you envision for this? This is a great application, the temperature screening. Beyond that, do you expect many or most of us will have robots such as Misty in our homes in the coming 3 to 5 years, or is it going to take much longer than that?
Fred, it's a great question. In the offices in the next 3 to 5 years, absolutely. It may not be Misty II, it may be Misty III, maybe Misty IV. Just like personal computers and just like AR, VR headsets, what existed 40 years ago with personal computers is quite different than what exists today. What existed with AR, VR headsets 10 years ago, very different than today. So, for sure, robots are going to evolve. They're going to continue to gain in acuity and power and capability, not only because of all the AI that's being created in the cloud, but because of advancements with battery, advancements with processing. So, I think certainly for offices where there's a huge amount of ROI, right? Hospitals and mental health centers have told us that Misty pays for herself in a month and a half to 2, right? That's an outrageously good return on investment. So you can, once you see the video of the temperature screening assistant, which is an outstanding video, everything just sort of clicks in. You're like, oh my gosh, Misty could be at the desk at the Comcast store and greeting people and answering questions. And if it's a question that she doesn't really know how to answer, great, get the person over, and that way the Comcast employee can concentrate more on selling and giving the person the information they need as opposed to the rote information. You can see her at the grocery store at the aisle. Walk up, tell her what your shopping list is, show her what your shopping list is. And she says, okay, you need to start in aisle 2 and then go to aisle 4 and then you'll be done in aisle 8. And oh, by the way, if you need some help on a particular thing, great. We'll get somebody to you and they'll meet you in aisle 8. Right? Once you see that a friendly robot is conversational, recognizes you, can have an interaction, right? Just the number of opportunities just explodes. And since we've now really proven with the temperature screening assistant that she's reliable, she works all the time, she works 24/7. I think the sky's the limit. In terms of the home, I think it's more in the 5 to 10 year range. It just sort of depends on what the scope of applications are that people develop for the home. And sort of how broadly applicable those are.
The vision at iRobot is obviously, okay, it's going to help you clean your house. What's the vision for something like Misty, what it's going to bring into the home?
Well, there are just dozens of applicable tasks that you would want done in your home. There are tasks related to keeping your children company and keeping your children safe. There are tasks to unlock the door and let the FedEx person put the package inside the front door. There are tasks to make sure your teenagers have done their chores before they get Wi-Fi. There are tasks to make sure that your elderly parent that's staying with you, that their room is safe and that that they've got an opportunity to do something. There are all kinds of games that Misty can play with an elderly person. Once you think about therapeutic assistance, therapists can be sending down applications for Misty that can interact with your elderly parent that's living with you. If you've got autistic kids, again, applications can be downloaded onto Misty so that you could have Misty working with your autistic kid. When you're not there, she can roam around the house to make sure your house is protected. Because she's got accessories on her, she's got a backpack and arms that are detachable quickly. You can put any kind of environmental sensor on her. If you're worried about CO2, if you're worried about other sort of volatile air, great. Buy the accessory for volatile air, and she, when she does her patrol in the middle of the night, she's checking it out. Right? There are just so many applications for if you had a little autonomous helper in your house that was conversant, that was had some knowledge, that was able to independently navigate around. There's just so many applications, and the big answer to that, Fred, is inventors exist throughout the world, and those inventors have never been able to think about inventing a robot solution. But you and I know that your lived experience in your home and my lived experience in my home is radically different than the other 8 billion people lived experience in their home. And so, you just can never know where chocolate's going to meet peanut butter, and what sorts of applications that inventor is going to invent, because they happen to have a slightly different perspective on, what a little autonomous being in the home can do. And when it's as simple a program as a website, because you know how to do web programming, it's right. It just opens up so much opportunity for developers.
And what do you see as the ideal form factor? Obviously, Misty II is a small robot. I guess that's designed in a way to make it as friendly as it can be. Or?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think you may remember that from past conversations. At 7 pounds, she's highly portable. You can take her on the airplane. You can move her around. She's not intimidating. She's not going to damage and destroy things. The minute that you need to make a robot 3 feet tall, 4 feet tall, that's the minute that she's 80 pounds, right? And now she can, do real damage to children in the house, do real damage to the objects in the house if she were to run into them. So, Fred, the answer, our perspective of the answer is an incredible amount of modularity. If you need Misty to perform something where you need her to be at 3.5 or 4 feet tall, great. Put her on a modular base that itself weighs 80 pounds, but all the intelligence, all the human interaction, all this, most of the sensors, and you can go to our webpage on the products page, Misty II, and see, what we did there, where, very quickly in a couple of weeks, we built a mobile pedestal for her. Okay, great. Now she's 3.5 feet tall. The future, the C3PO, the Rosie, that's more than 10 years away, because motors and power management and joints and intelligence, that's just so far away to deliver for a couple $1,000s, right? I mean, you can see Boston Dynamics amazing videos of their robots, that are in the millions of dollars. So you can sort of get a sense for, oh, okay, here's the state of the art for millions of dollars. Still not quite C3PO, but it's pretty darn close. And it's going to take a while for that, couple $1 million, who knows how many millions of dollars those robots are, to come down to $2,000, $3,000, $5,000.
So today, if people go to the website, how much does Misty II cost? And are there out-of-the-box solutions for people who may not be programmers?
So, I mentioned that we just put out an out-of-the-box solution, which is temperature screening. So if you are anywhere where you need, where you're asking a human being to hold a thermometer to somebody's forehead, great, right? That's an out-of-the-box solution for Misty. It's roughly $3,000 plus a software fee, and And as I've sort of talked about, there are some out-of-the-box applications for disabled kids, autistic kids, and by out-of-the-box, that doesn't mean that we've packaged a third party's intellectual property into Misty, right? You still need to, communicate with the third party. Fred, you're wise enough and wizened enough to remember personal computers when you went to the third party and you bought the spreadsheet and you came home and you put it on your personal computer, and right, and you first bought the computer and then you bought the things that were useful for you on the computer, and that's we are at the very, very, very dawn of a transition between robots that do one and only one thing, a vacuum cleaner, right, and robots that do hundreds of things from an app store, right?
Very interesting. So for more information, where do people go?
For the Temp Screening Assistant, temperature.mistyrobotics.com. And if you're a developer, a company, a person with a robot idea, go to www.mistyrobotics.com.
It's Misty robotics.com.
Yes,
Tim,
Misty as in it's misty outside.
or play Misty for me.
Or play Misty, or my favorite, Misty from Chinquapin, the horse story.
Wonderful. Tim Enwall, thank you so much for taking the time with us.
Great. Thanks, Fred. Great to be with you again.